It's barely 12 months since OpenAI launched its generative artificial intelligence at Chat GPT. But since then, every company and government has pivoted to the challenges and the opportunities that will emerge from AI. OpenAI is now valued at US $80 billion, but dramatically over the weekend, the board unexpectedly sacked Chief Executive Sam Altman. Now Microsoft, which has invested $13 billion in OpenAI, says it will hire Altman and 700 potentially of his colleagues who threatened to walk out as well. But how will Altman go inside Microsoft, which has 220,000 employees? Back in June, he was here in Melbourne and spoke about why he thinks small tech companies do much better than big organisations.
I'm a huge believer in, obviously from the Y Combinator background, but I'm a huge believer in small, focused, super talent-dense companies that have a clear mission that everybody believes in. And at a company that is like the scale of like hundreds of thousands of people, that's just hard. They can copy super well. Like Chat GPT, definitely going to get copied now. But we'll already be on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And I think innovation is easier with a relatively small team that has to make a decisive and clear concentrated bet and that doesn't tolerate any mediocre performers.
So let's bring in here Chris Griffith, award-winning tech journalist from the Gold Coast, who's with me now. Chris, many thanks for your time. If this all comes to pass and those employees, if you get Sam Altman, if you get other founders coming across to Microsoft, this could be the tech coup of the century.
I believe that's the case, Ross. In fact, it's one of the biggest tech business stories of the year by a mile. We've all been, mesmerised by Chat GPT, generative AI. It's been the thing that people have talked about all year, and this is a company behind it, as you said, valued in the $80 billion plus range. Basically imploding, I think, would be the best way to describe it. So Sam Altman, who's the CEO, gets sacked on Friday. It's in a way, it's part of what's been a very stormy kind of operation. You might remember this was formed in 2015. 2018, Elon Musk, who was one of the co-founders, left because of a policy difference. He wanted to take the company in a different direction. And that seems to be the case here. There's another co-founder, Ilya Sutskever, who there'd been this emerging difference. He'd seen it on social media, concern about the direction of the company. And that really festered and seems to be, as much as we can see, the likely cause of this difference of direction which caused this Altman sacking. Now, immediately he was sacked. Greg Brockman, another co-founder, resigns. Staff are outraged. They threaten to go. There's a kind of attempt on the weekend to patch up the differences, and then a meeting on Monday where we thought Altman would come back because Microsoft backed that, and so did the investors. But no, they sacked him, or they reaffirmed that they'd sacked him, appointed Emmett Shear, who is the co-founder of Twitch, which is a video platform for gaming, as its interim CEO. But then there was this absolute coup by Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, to say, OK, we're going to bring Altman on board within the company. As you know, Microsoft was the major investor in OpenAI anyway, but it's gone from being an investor to basically now the owner of that business with those two co-founders, with the likelihood that most of the staff will go with them. And wait for it, what's going to happen to Microsoft's big investment in OpenAI? Why do they need to keep investment there if they've got most of the staff within the organisation itself? Now, the other thing that's happened is Ilya Sutskever, the guy that allegedly had the big difference of opinion with Sam Altman, now goes on social media and says he deeply regrets his role and he's now threatening to quit unless the board resigns. So the guy who was apparently the person that Altman was having a big feud with is now regretting it. And says Chris, he's going to go as well.
Yes. So, Chris, can I jump in there and just ask you one thing about this? Because OpenAI, just to explain it to people, when it was begun and when Elon Musk was involved, this was to be open source data. So, in other words, the profit motive of it wasn't as great as really the ability to spread artificial intelligence throughout the world. Now there's a clear profit motive here. That's what seems to be different in regards to the way Microsoft is trying to drive it, because we can see that Google, we can see that Amazon, we can see other big tech companies are also trying to drive down this path of generative AI.
Well, that seems to be now the case. I think Microsoft, as I said, was supportive of Altman staying on, so it was supportive of the way it was going, but it's seen, the great opportunity for this. And this not-for-profit issue is coming back to bite, because investors, in the last thing that I read, were going to try and sue the company, the board, for how they've handled this. But what I read was that under US law, because it's a non-for-profit, they're likely to be shielded to some degree. So you've got that going on. But there's another factor as well in all of this. There's an enormous ongoing Federal Trade Commission investigation into OpenAI, its practices, how it's being accused of harming consumers, deceptive privacy and data security practices. And the FTC is accumulating an enormous amount of stuff. And at the end of the day, this could really come back to bite, with fines and maybe orders to retrain Chat GPT because of all the copyrighted stuff that it's and misinformation that's gobbled up.
Well, Chris, it's going to be fascinating to watch all that, and many thanks for your analysis today. I really appreciate your time on the program.